decide that running for office isn't the best thing for you to do. Sometimes the best thing that we can do as Democrats is convince people not to run. We've all seen people who have no chance at all whatsoever of running, and it's very good for them to run if no one else is getting in, because we want to make sure that every race is competitive in some way, that we want to make sure that we're putting someone in every race. But when it takes resources away from races that could go either way, that's where it becomes very, very challenging for us as a party, is to be very strategic with our resources, because as you remember, we have limited resources and we need to prioritize them. So that's important. So the 4 big questions, if you decide that you want to run, is why do you want to run? What experiences do you bring to the race? What are your strengths and weaknesses? And are you and your family personally ready and in a position to run? Those are the 4 big things. So here's now where we get into like the actual topics of the training. This is all my favorite stuff. So first we're going to talk about message development. And this is where we get a lot of information from Wellstone. Wellstone perfected the way that we deliver our message to voters. So the best message should be one that inspires your base. It should speak to people who are persuadable, people who are kind of up on the fence, your 2s, 3s, and 4s if you're ranking voters. And it should also marginalize the opposition at the same time. And Wellstone's created a really good rubric to show us how we can do that. It's called the messaging grid. How many of you have seen something like this before, messaging grid? A few of you. So this is a tool that they developed that basically you lay out, you have these 4 different quadrants here. You identify what we say as the campaign or the candidates about ourselves, and what we say about our opposition, and then vice versa, what your opponents say about you, and then what your opponents say about themselves. When you are in the process of planning your campaign, perhaps even before you're running, you need to sit down and figure out what your message is going to be, so that you're able to not just be able to talk about yourself and your opponent, but be able to preemptively identify what your opponent's going to say about you, and what you should be saying about your opponent as well. This allows for different kinds of strategic positioning. It allows for anticipation of arguments and preparation for different counter-arguments. So we want to throw some examples out here, and we'll do that in just a moment to kind of illustrate that concept. When you're thinking about your message and how to articulate it, this is a very useful rule at the 3-9-27. Your campaign message, your core message, should have about 3 points, and that's because the average memory for a person is 3 items. It should be able to be delivered in 9 seconds, because the average television quote is 10 seconds long. And it should have 27 or fewer words, because the average newspaper quote is 30 words. So this is designed to make sure that you're going to have the maximum memory retention with voters who you're talking to, and also increase or maximize the probability that whatever you say is going to be picked up with earned media, with newspapers and with people online or people on your local news or those kinds of things. It's completely designed to just maximize all of those.
Is average memory actually down to 3? Because in education courses we learned that it's 7 plus or minus 3. It's actually down to 3?
If you're talking about specific points that you want people to remember, like environment, public safety, national debt, or something like that, if you add on more to that, it's less likely that people will remember what those 3 discrete points are. If you're saying in education, it's 7 plus or minus 3?
7 plus or minus 3, right. So if you have 7 numbers.
So numbers might be different than the number of points that you want to make about your platform, for example. Okay. Like thinking about the number of digits of pi or something like that, you might be able to remember a few more out than, it might be cognitively different numbers versus qualitative items that are on campaign platform. Yeah.
Rick Perry wanted to eliminate 3 government agencies.
This assumes intelligence, by the way.
So,
yeah.
So yeah, I'm a believer.
Yeah. I'll never forget that moment. That's like one of the best moments of my life. He wears glasses now, so he's smarter.
Oh.
So, be ready. What a moron. So, Paul Wellstone. Who knows who Paul Wellstone was?
He was a senator from Minnesota,
Senator from Minnesota.
and he died in an airplane crash.
With
Tragically.
his family, right before Election Day. He was going up for his third term, I believe, for U.S. Senate.
Did he win? Did he win? Did he win?
He passed away, so they invalidated those results, yeah. But we have Al Franken there now, so living that on. But he said, this is the way that Paul Wellstone created his 3927. He said, I will fight for Minnesotans who want a healthcare system that works, good education for their children, and economic opportunity. That's the way he phrased it. Healthcare system that works, good education for children, economic opportunity. His 3 points. It's within, you can say it within 9 seconds, and it's under 27 words long. So when we're looking at that messaging grid, Wellstone was running against Norm Coleman. Norm Coleman is the one who was against Al Franken. If you guys remember that. And they had that really, really close the recount. Yeah, like a couple hundred votes, if that. So this is the grid that Wellstone's team put together. This is actually what they did. Their campaign strategy came up with these core messages looking about what we say about ourselves, what we say about Norm Coleman, etc. So Wellstone says, you can count on Paul to fight for you. Paul Wellstone. You can count on Paul to fight for you. And you put that word fight in there, because he's a fighter. He's a community organizing, political scientist,